Line, line, love, 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 love. People always talking, but plenty of them don't know, and that is why they always criticizing the true giants of Kaiso. But like they forgetting the old pretty. Some are great Kaisos I sang universally. In New York they start the Hall of Fame, but they couldn't leave out the great pretender's name. I've been singing Kaiso from a little boy since 1929. Always have proper lyrics and don't talk about sweet music. Good rendition, rhythm and rhyme. And year after year, pretty always there. The facts you can't ignore. I am very sure they don't make them like me anymore. Like let it. When I jump in the ring, boy, I pass them fellas. Could I really sing? Them was the mouthpiece, the chronicle, always defending the rights of poor people. Oh yes, we breakaway and Lego, but they used to sing things that people should know. We didn't have no records or radio. Is you had to prove yourself singing Kaiso. Men like Douglas Lion Attila, Radio Brawler Beginner, Caressa and the Great Executor, Monsi Daly Albany, King Irie Normandy, Mentor and Modern Inventor, Tiger Unknown and Invader, Unknown Soldier and Rascasa, Destroyer and the Great Kitchener. But as I said before, they don't make them like me anymore. This is something you ought to know. It's over 6 decades I sing in Kaiso. They change up Kaiso in all form and fashion, but I still remain a true Kaisonian. Oh yes, I love me soca and up tempo, but me in line go true Kaiso. I want you to keep these names in your head. Some good Calypsonians, both living or dead. Viking Zebra, Mighty Killer, Melody Terror, the Great Spoiler, Striker Ziegfeld, and Conqueror, Superior Cypher, the Great Sparrow, Blakey Briner, Puma Cristo, Shorty Juke Rose, and Valentino. Sniper Relator, Explain Abrigo, Funny Francine, Gypsy, and Maestro, Stalin Chalk Dust, Shadow Swallow, Composer Engren, and Power I can't ignore, but they don't make them like me anymore. Now everywhere I go, people want to know what go really happen to Kaiso. I told them that I may be dead and gone, but sweet soak and Kaiso bound to live on. When some of we big boys get wiped off the map, there are plenty good young singers to fill the gap. So who hear the name? I hope they ain't ball. It's too much of good Kaisonian to call like Tambu Baran, David Rodder, Roosman Skrenta, Dennis Plummer, Shualos, Merchant Luther Crow, Johnny King, Crazy.
Your father knows about saving money. Everything I'm wearing, I've had since boot camp.
All wrong there. Posa Bali, Pink Panther, Little Natasha, Marshall Montano, Ebony Contender, the Labo, Super Blue Protector, the Fosto, Watchman GB, Rio Alberto, Kenny J. Lady B, and Islin. Oh, but they don't think them like me anymore. Friends, I was bound to come back because I heard the tumultuous rounds of applause. It's very gratifying to know you appreciate pretty high. So I love to sing for people with intelligence. And you are such a beautiful audience. Believe me, friend, this ain't old talk. I love the Calypso fans in New York.
The Great Pretender.
Friends, I know you love to hear pretty singing extemporaneously. A lot of giant singers coming behind. Me want nobody keep me in mind. They have composer and terror. Boma, don't forget relator. Me don't want them fellas complain. So if you call me, I ain't coming back again.
Pretty Pretender.
Friends, as a true to Kai's Union, I must thank you for your acclamation. Your acknowledgement gives me the inspiration to sing this extempo composition. But my performance, I'll have to curtail. I hope that you would let good sense prevail. Make all your friends to know you met the Michael Jordan of Kai. It's very gratifying to know you appreciate pretty high. So I love to sing for people with intelligence. And you are such a beautiful audience. Believe me, friend, this ain't old talk. I love the Calypso fans in New York.
The Great Pretender.
I know you love to hear pretty singing extemporaneously. A lot of giant singers coming behind. Me want nobody keep me in mind. They have composer and terror. Boomer, don't forget relator. Me don't want them fellas complain. So if you call me, I ain't coming.
Free me, pretender.
Friends as are true to Kai's Union. I must thank you for your acclamation. Your acknowledgement gives me the inspiration to sing this extempo composition. But my performance, I'll have to curtail. I hope that you would let good sense prevail. Make all your friends to know you met the Michael Jordan of Kai.
Myself, one of the old timers, Lord Pretender, going way back, start singing Kaiso back in 29. He's the king of extempo. A lot of people know Gypsy as the modern day king of extempo. And they have some of the youngsters who are very good, and ladies too. But Pretender is the all-time great of extempo. Just sing, just come on the stage and just sing. You give them fellas a topic and say politics, and they just sing. They don't make them like that anymore. Lord Pretender, Lord Pretender. You all meet the Michael Jackson, the Magic Johnson, and Mike. What am I saying? What am I saying? All of them, all of those go to him. Whether it's Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, he's the great. He's one of the greats. Lord Pretender. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101 Thursday evening. We have Apostle London is here, and we're expecting Wayne Cesar to pass by. We are still covering the Melly Mel story. We are still covering the Melly Mel story. The Melly Mel story teaches us something about our country, our politics, our governance. It's not the person. It's not the person. It's not the first woman that they disrespect. They disrespect all them women in Moko. All them women in Mackenzie, lick down their womb, disrespect them. All them women in front with a stall in front of the hospital, spit on that young constable, disrespect, lock up young female lawyer. So Melly Mel is not the first woman that they disrespect. Send police, punch your mother, and attempt to plant weed. Note, they didn't plant cocaine, they plant weed. As I said, Guyana will not get it right until we start calling things by the right name. Melly Mel is being prosecuted and persecuted because she skin up the government, because she exposed the government, because she's standing up to the government. All of that is right, but you all still ain't got it right. What does Melly Mel have in common with the women in Moko? What does she have in common with those women? You all remember when they go lick down those people's house in Amelia's ward and so on in Linden? They were women. What does she have in common with those women? What does Melly Mel have in common with a woman lawyer that they lock up because she tell her client what to do? What does Melly Mel have in common with the constable, the woman that they spit on? What does she have in common with those women that they lick down the stall in front of the hospital and all over Georgetown? What does she have in common with those women who they just dress up in red jersey and carry them to PPP activity and have them disrespect themselves? What does Melly Mel have in common with women all over Guyana who have to watch their men being killed by police? What does she have in common with the mother of Quinton Bacchus? What does she have in common with the wife of Orrin Boston and the wife of Peter Headley? She black. African. They got Indian women who stand up to this government. Don't get it twisted. They got Indian women to stand up, but they would never send the police to the 50-something-year-old mother and 80-something-year-old grandmother. And they would never plant weed on them. They're going to give them hell in the villages they live. But certain things they would never do to them. We don't get the story right. And so the PPP feel they can do these things and also human rights violations. As Brother Henry Jeffrey said here the other night, when Dr. Ramcharan, said that we have shades of autocracy in Guyana, he was giving the PPP a way out. Because it's not the shades of autocracy is the problem. Indian autocracy, racial autocracy. You all ever wonder why they get bent out of shape and they want to break down all the seawall for let the water come in and flood out Guyana? You all ever wonder why they wanted to do that when Kofi 250 said an emerging apartheid state? You all ever wonder why they just call Henry Jeffrey, Eric Phillips, Vincent Alexander, and when they get ready, Norton and Nigel and Sister Olive Sampson and Pastor London, Apostle London. You ever wonder why they just call we racist? Because we got the number. Racists don't like people who understand racism and call them out on it. What they did to Melly Mel goes beyond just harassing a woman. How dare a little black girl put them in their place? What we have in Guyana is Indian male autocracy. Dictatorship, apartheid. You all got to get it right. You know, I hear that discuss young people and say young people and in the struggle and young people in this and young people in that and young people in that. I talk to plenty young people. And before I could tell them, they tell me, Dr. Hines, we catching hell in Guyana because we black, because we race, man. And you all go figure out why we politicians don't connect with them young people or they don't come and join the thing. Because we always go to them and said, young people, the youth in Guyana are not being involved, and the youth in Guyana, this and well, I don't get it wrong now. I don't get it wrong, but I just pass around sometime. The Indian youth don't have to worry about certain things. The Indian youth don't have to worry about police coming and stopping the party and licking them down and carrying on. They don't have to worry about that. The loudest music in Georgetown now is not them little black boy and girl. It's them young Indian boys and girls. Because they could do it. The police are going looking for them. But every time them young black children, having a good time, smoking a little weed, drinking the Red Bull and I don't know, there's drink something now, I don't know the name. But the energy drink and the Guinness and so on, the police step on them. There was a funeral one time in Buxton, young boy died and so on. And I was out there. And as I was leaving, the police are telling me, Dr. Hines, they walk on get hard now. I said, why? They said, well, once you there, them young people behaving themselves. But if you go now, they're going to misbehave. And it's trouble for me. The assumption they make about young black kids. It is true. Whenever I have been places where young people are, I don't see they behave bad, for the most part. And even if they behave bad and they notice I say, sorry, doc, and so on, right? They get manners. But they understand clearly why they're being treated as son because they're black. I don't have to tell them that. But when politicians go and telling them about youth and don't put African behind it, they tune me out. They tune me out. I myself, sometimes I'm surprised. You go in the little stores, you go in the baker shop, you go in them young people that they're selling, they're walking. Young women, young thing. And they're surprised sometimes to see me. And then I say, well, why you are surprised? Well, leaders don't come in the shop and buy porn and gaffing and so on and thing. But keep up the good work. You're standing up for black people. The young people are conscious of what's happening to them racially. Even when they're running behind the PPP, putting on the shot and so on, because of the $40,000, and so on. They know that the PPP doing it for racial reasons. It's we, the leaders, who are not conscious. So when I read in, but you all talk about Melly Mel and Melly Mel, the one thing that you all are missing is that Melly Mel getting the treatment she getting because she is Black, and they're disrespectful of Black people. They're not going to plant weed on an 87-year-old Indian woman. And this had nothing to do with the fact that I'm not saying they should go and plant weed on Indian people. You all don't get me wrong. I'm just saying they would not go and plant weed on a whole Portuguese lady or a whole Indian lady or a whole Chinese lady. But they're going to watch some two big black women, and go and plant weed on them. The profile. We are drugs people. We ain't good for nothing. Everybody does smoke for recreation, but Black people does smoke to get on bad. When I talk like this, they say David Hines teaching race. And when Black people can't take it no more and they decide to really get on bad, they're going to blame David Hines. That's what they set it up to do, you know. They know that Black people ain't going to take this forever and forevermore. So they want to blame people like me for giving Black people Black ideology. But I ain't going to stop. I'm glad you all realize that the Black ideology, getting Black people more, are going to do it every day. If there are 10 days in a week, I'm going to come here 10 days a week. Anyhow, I think we are ready to roll. Good evening to all of you. Good night to some of you who are very far. You're going away far to England. You're going away and so on. You're all gone long in front. First time I go Canada, you know, me got a friend named Brian Moses. He live far out. So we there in Toronto. And we there by Pudding. We said, well, Pudding, we want to go by Brian. Brian live out a far place. They Pudding, Brian live till Albion by. And you got crossover, Bobbies. You see where you all there in England, you all there far. Nighttime also for catch morning. Good night, good Asher Young and all the crowd there in England. And so on. Good night to you all. Good morning. It's already morning. Also catch morning. Good evening to you all in the Big Apple. Don't call New York them name of the Big Apple. Rastaman say Old York. Make in Old York. In boxing, we said when you left for go Brooklyn, they said when you left boxing for go Annandale, because Annandale next door to boxing. Because people in Brooklyn don't know what's going on in boxing. Long, you're dead in boxing, you know. People dead there, and people are calling from Brooklyn. You hear Miss Vashti, you hear Miss this, you heard such story. They know the story in Brooklyn long before you're there in boxing there. So when you left for go Brooklyn, we said, you go Annandale. That's why my friend Danette Booker, she moved out from Brooklyn and she gone to Pennsylvania. And when she put in, she said, I am joining you, Dr. Hines, from PA. PA, you want to play bright? You want to play bright for me? I'm joining you from PA. Danette, good evening. Good evening. I spent 4 months in Guyana and you were missing in action. No cook up rice, no nothing, nothing. Other people got cook for we. When you tell Danette cook, you said, Danette, bring the food for 8 o'clock. Danette send the food since 4 o'clock. She's very prompt. She don't make joke. Now we miss the prom food. We got share late food this time. Oh boy, good evening. Welcome to Politics 101. Let me bring in my brothers because time going. time going. You all can't set tonight. Last night, you all the in between. You all the in between. You all watching Guyana and the CPL, and you all get one INA and so on and think tonight Guyana not playing due to you all standing captain, Mr. Hope, Shea Hope. He make me lose last night. They're very, very bad decisions. But anyhow, that is the cricket. Good evening to all of you. Good evening, Coretta McDonald. You stop talk to me. What are you telling me? Hi, David. Good night to you and your viewers watching here from Blackout City. You all get blackout in Guyana, in Georgetown, in Guyana. What's new? Coretta, you stop talk to me. You don't come a program no more. Me turn on this program. You're there on that program. You're there on all the programs. Them. You ain't coming here. You get very racial. I am not Mark Light friend. Me and Mark Light friend. Me not keep company like that. Me not keep them kind of company that. So I'm glad let me and you make her back. And next week you're gonna come on the program and you're gonna think, oh, you won't get blackout next week. All right, I think we're ready to go. Apostle London. Good evening, Mr. Wayne Cesar. Good evening. Welcome to your first edition
Greetings.
of Politics 101. Politics 101.
Good evening, Dr. Hines. Good evening, Apostle London. Pleasant good evening to you both. And good evening
Greetings.
to the listening audience.
Greetings to you both and to those who are viewing as well. It's an honor to be here.
You see, they never lick down Coretta McDonald house. They do what's done though. They terrorize she. They call she all kind of name. She this, she that, she the terror, and so on. She drawing two pay. She drawing GTU pay, and she drawing a parliamentarian pay. As if we parliamentarians, we don't have professional parliament. All them get out of job. All them get out of job. All them get out of job. They draw the minister money, and then they draw the parliamentarian money. But they're picking on Coretta McDonald. Say some constitution say that Coretta mustn't draw. She pay for she profession. But they can draw the pay for the profession and then draw the pay for robbing Guyanese people, the majority in parliament. So what does Melly Mel, and this is, I'll give you all a quick quiz, Sir London and Sir Cesar. What does Melly Mel and Coretta McDonald have in common? I'll start with you, Mr. Cesar. You're new, so you got to take the new ball.
What does Melly Mel and Coretta McDonald have in power? In common?
Apart from the fact that they're opposing the government.
Okay. They are both women.
Uh-huh.
They are both women of African descent.
Uh-huh.
And these two women is the type of women that they get in a boxing ring and you knock them down, they're going to get right back up and the fight continues. So they would not be good for any government. Okay? And that's what we're seeing here.
Pastor London, ultimately,
Yes.
what does Coretta and Melly Mel and all them women then kneel down on the chest in Moko and spit on them and lick down the style? What they have in common?
Well, thank you. And I think we can all arrive at consensus that they're both descendants of Africans and they represent an ethnic group who, in the minds of some, maybe, deserve to be oppressed as firmly as ever to the point where they crumble.
You see how my panelists are bright boys. That's why they're in Politics 101. My brothers, here we go again. Melly Mel, who apparently does her thing on social media. She does her thing. She exposes the government, etc., etc. And they decided that they're going to send the police to her mother and her grandmother, and her little son, I understand, was there. And they're going to plant weed outside the paling. What and I'm starting with you, Apostle London. What is the significance of that whole scenario? What is the subtext? What does that scenario tell us about our country and about ourselves as a society?
It is one of the most troubling situations that I can recall in recent history for me, because of the extent to which uh, an aspect of the state or an arm of the state would have been used against us as a people, and more so against an elderly woman who is deemed to be almost incapacitated to some extent. Based on reports, she stopped eating for about 3 weeks. And the terror, this is tyranny on a whole different scale, because they have decided they will not even consider age, medical condition, or anything anymore when it comes to the tyranny and the terrorism that which Guyanese would now have to experience. So when I saw this, it is quite perplexing to me to know that, even more importantly, I would like to know about the ethnic composition of the group of policemen who would have been there. This is important for us to take note of,
Yes.
because the Guyana Police Force, they've said, is predominantly African descendants. So it is more than likely that African descendants, and when I saw one of the videos, there was an African descendant hopping into the vehicle, into the pickup. So I would really love to know the names of these people, the ethnic composition of the group, because it plays into the hand of our culture, which is that Africans are to be oppressed by Africans through instructions from someone else. And that in itself is a glaring atrocity against us as a people.
Brother Wayne, same question to you. What does this whole troubling situation, what does it represent? What does it tell you about those who govern? What does it tell you about the state of our country at this particular time?
Dr. Hines, you speak of those who govern. Right now, I am having a problem believing that there is a government in Guyana. I would more align the PPPC with a terrorist organization right now. Okay, because I don't think you just walk into someone's home without a warrant or anything showing, and you ransack the person's home, you plant weed in the backyard. No, you have a 87-year-old woman. What if she went into to cardiac arrest based on the shock of the police just entering the premises and just ransacking the whole place? What would have happened at that point? And then, look, to see that the government went into such an action, doesn't it paint a picture that what Melissa Atwell, aka Melly Mel, would have brought to the table is actually the truth? Because the truth really hurts. Okay? And that this is the PPP way of reacting. And I am not surprised, Dr. Hines, because these guys in leadership, I refuse to call them politicians also. These guys are a set of unlearned gangsters. So that's where I'm going to stop with this. It is totally wrong. It is outrageous. At some point, there is going to be a boiling point, and the community is going to start reacting. We have a lot of human rights organizations around the world, and I know that they're looking in and seeing what is happening here. And the silence of them is deafening. But let the people react, and then everybody's going to want to come to the table. I stop here for now, Dr. Hines.
Brother London, I call a whole string of women, from women lawyers to women police to women trade unionists to women in the village trying to make a living selling, mining pig and cow and so on, to women who are homemakers, Why are they targeting black women? Why? To help us to understand what is this thinking. We know they're targeting black people. We know that. Why this particular targeting of black women from male male go right through, right through, right through?
The unfortunate truth is that the African woman in Guyana represents nowadays a degree of strength that is hardly seen in many of our men.
Mhm.
Many of our men have cowered and kowtowed to pressure, and we can understand sometimes why. They have family to feed, and some of them tell me plainly that they have to support, well, pretend to support the PV because they have to eat. I don't subscribe to that nonsense, but it's just said anyway. And many women have been very, very vociferous. When you see this protest action, most people are females. The females are in the front line. The females are standing there and they're chanting with passion. Females are prepared to be arrested in some extent, to some extent. And so the general nature of the male in the People's Progressive Party, the top brass, is to despise females, especially females who are even ready to take the risk of telling them that they're wrong. And if you observe the nature of these people, I have never heard one single East Indian female in the PPP's cabinet or whatever you call it criticize a male. Never once have they tried it. They dare not try it. I am told, based on my observation, therefore, that, or my observations inform me, that any African, therefore, female who decides to take a stand, you will be treated with such force that it's a message being sent here that you'd better be subjected to us or else, because it is known by many people that African women have a degree of strength within them that is unmatched by any ethnicity. We survived centuries of torture and turmoil, centuries of rape, centuries of being beaten and killed and slaughtered. We watched that to some extent, our women, and they still thrive. They still have the will to persevere. And so now we have a group of men in the PPP who I have seen, and I'm convinced they hate females, more so African descendants. They hate women. You can't tell me anything. I know that they hate women because the number of things were done even to women of Amerindian descent, and they do nothing about it because they hate females.
Brother Wayne, why are they targeting women? Why?
I think Apostle would have hit the hammer directly on the nail with that. Because when you look at a society in India, for example, the female is always submissive to the male. And Apostle London would have talked about the African, the female of African descent and the strength that they possess. I mean, men of African descent have a pretty difficult time with our wives already. You know, if our wife, to the extent our wife is a woman of African descent. So picture her being submissive to a male of another race. That is going to be pretty difficult. So yes, it puts the women out there in the limelight. And when you look at a lot of these social media programs and you look at the makeup of the audience, it's women that is dominating the conversation on these programs, right? And Apostle London hit it. He's hit a lot of things in his first few comments here that I am totally in agreement with. I always ask the question, and in the Mocha situation, I did the same, Dr. Hines. Where are our males? Once in Guyana, the male of African descent was so powerful. Where is that power? You know, are we just going to be laying over for these people to just continue to walk upon us? So at some point, you know, we need to start standing up, right? And I feel like if that standing up would come when our opposition put themselves in a position where they are agreeing, even if they're not going to initiate protests, they're going to agree to support protests because protests move mountains, man. And we are not showing enough resistance right now, and these people are just continuing to walk right over us. So I feel like if we need to put in place a measure of resistance, it is high time now.
Pastor Apostle London, what is Melly Mel doing that is causing these people to get so nasty? There must be something she's doing.
There is, and I must applaud her because her style of doing it is what would drive the likes of Jagdio insane. She is very frontal. She brash. I don't know if to say that negatively. She took upon herself an unusual burden, which would be to, as an African descendant, as a female, as a young female who doesn't have all the PhDs and all kind of thing behind the name, she decided, you know what? I will tell you that you're rotten, that you're corrupt, that you're wicked, and I'll prove it. So she jumped beyond the norm, way beyond the realm of normalcy, and said, I'll be in your face and I'll tell you in the worst possible way how corrupt you are. Now, once you do that to tyrants, and that is done to people who believe that they are superior to others, because let us not forget, I've said it and I will continue to say it, Jagdio and others are seeking to create a society in Ghana whereby there is such a dominance in terms of ethnic dominance that African descendants will have maybe a lifetime to try to catch up. A super society, I call it. And so when you have a female of African descent deciding to hop into this furnace and say, you know what, this is how I know you wicked. And she begins to spew and rightfully so, publish evidence that they know is irrefutable. These people have tripped, as we say in Guyana, they've lost it, they've gone crazy because a woman who is so young and an African descendant who's not a multi-millionaire in US currency and whatever should never take this risk. You should never, don't even think that you could be so crazy to jump in our faces. And not just the political entities, she went to law enforcement, the top brass, and say, this is what y'all are doing too. It takes a degree of courage for a female to do that, that these males who are, as I say again, so, who possess so much hatred for women, they can't deal with such a young African descendant doing that to them. And that is why they will have to go to the end of the earth to seek to eliminate Melly Mel, because they can handle what she represents.
Yeah. Their image of the black woman is the big party and fete.
Right.
That let us bring. That's their image of the young black woman. The big party and the fete and dress up with the color hair and so on. That is their image of the black woman. And I am not putting down women who want to party. Go on party. I am not allowing nobody to tell me that black women going and party, something wrong with them. Everybody just go and party. I just walk, I say I don't get around much now, but I just pass around. And when you're watching them bar and so on, them big bottle rum now, it's not African when they can't afford it.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's women of other ethnicity who not supposed to be in the rum shop. Now drinking the biggest bottle, Grey Goose and White Goose and Brown Goose and so on. So don't tell me that if black women party, something wrong with them. Go and party. If you want to color your hair, you have the freedom to do it now. A piece of time you can color your hair. So I might not agree with some of the color, but color your hair. So I'm not taking agency away from our black women. My point is that they have figured out an image of black women in their minds. And this is the black woman in the dance hall, the black woman from the corner, carrying on and going on and get on. And they don't figure in their mind black women who can stand up to them. That's why they have a problem with Coretta and the girl from Mackenzie there with you there,
Vanessa
Vanessa,
Castillo.
and my friend Simona. They have a problem with these women because these women in your face, like any other women, but they're in your face with spunks. As we said, long time, you all look really young than me, but long time you say, you get more seed than Ballinger.
Right.
Them woman, this Melly Mel and them lady from Moko and Correct and them, they get seed them plenty Ballinger. And that is what the PPP cannot take. They would rather you, Apostle, Wayne, they would rather see us at the bar, sit down having a drink, having a beer. We're harmless in that way. We drink up, we get drunk, we talk story, and we think and we go home. They don't have a problem with us there, and so on. But once we go beyond that image of the black man and the black woman, you drive fear in them. Brother Archer, brother Cesar, let's talk about the police force because they are in the middle of this whole thing. They're in the middle of this thing. All right? Now, are we living in a police state? So goes the question. Are we living in a police state? Mr. Wayne Cesar.
Well, there's a few things there, Dr. Hines. Are we living in a police state? Yes, I would say that we're living in a police state. We're living under a dictatorship. The PPP is also an ethnocracy. I would put all of those things together as one because the police force is literally an arm of the PPP that is totally supported by the taxpayers of Guyana. And you see, this is where this really bothers me because the police force is there to serve and protect the citizenry of Guyana. But in this case, it is not happening. They're abusing them, they're beating them, they're shooting them, they're doing all kinds of things to them. They're taking orders from the government. They're going and executing searches and seizures with false warrants, amongst other things. The top brass in the police force across the board, I'm not going to hesitate, across the board, they're all corrupt. They're all corrupt. Okay, period. They're all corrupt. They're all money launderers. All right. And this doesn't just start at the level of the police force, Dr. Hines. When that Vice video would have came out with Barra Jagdeo, he should have been arrested immediately. He should have been arrested immediately. Now, you don't think the top brass in the police force know that they should have arrested Barra Jagdeo immediately? But if he can do such things and get away with it, why can't they? Okay? So then it becomes board of a feather flock together. They're all there. They're all just sucking the people of Guyana. Right? Taking all the money across the board, and it's business as usual. Who don't want to open sandpit? Who don't have millions upon millions of dollars deposited into bank accounts at one time and all these type of things? That's why, Dr. Hines, that's one of the things I would have called for us to have, high-level people in government audited every 2 years so that we can see where they are gaining all this capital, where they are gaining all this wealth from. Because it is not fair to the Guyanese people. There have not been a reduction in taxes. There have not been a reduction in anything in Guyana. They just continue to pay into this police force that is abusing them. Now imagine paying taxes to a force that your young African Guyanese child could go out, or your neighbor's African Guyanese young man can go out and not come home because of that same police force that you essentially are financing. It's not fair to our citizens, Dr. Hines. I believe that Guyanese are living under a police state. I believe that the Guyana police force stokes fear into the Guyanese people. I feel the people are very fearful of coming out and protesting, amongst other things. And we have to remember, the Guyana police force is there for all Guyanese, not just the PPP. And this is where, Dr. Hines, I am having some issues with the posture of the opposition, but I'm sure you will get to that later. So I will leave that for later.
Apostle, Apostle London, you're an expert on many things, but I can say with confidence that you have made this police force a study. I've listened to you, and whenever you talk about them, you're quite clinical and analytical. He put them in historical perspective, in contemporary perspective. Are we living in a police state?
We are definitely, and I appreciate your analysis. We must understand why the police existed after slavery. We
Hmm.
it's necessary to go there because once we go there, we'll understand why they are necessary now for the PPP. And before slavery was abolished, there was nothing called police. There was no need for them according to the masters and these people. They didn't need them. But once the Africans were deemed to be free, suddenly there was need for policemen. In Guyana, the freedom of the African descendants must be curtailed by a force, and by a force of people who look like them. So that when those people come after you, you cannot say that they're racist, because at the end of the day, if I come to arrest you, how am I racist if I look like you? And this strategy is being used to oppress Africans, because the PPP must master the art of oppressing one of the most powerful ethnic groups to ever walk this earth. And it's done through the means of weaponizing people who are called policemen, also through the means of convincing the population, the target group, that if you only risk coming up against us, we're going to use the police to come up against you. And that is what a police state looks like, whereby I can be driving to the city tonight and a swarm of police officers comes around my vehicle and say that you have been, we needed the station because of cybercrime, cyberbullying. Somebody called and said you called name on this program and you hurt their feelings. And my family do not see me for 5 or 6 days. That would send shockwaves through so many groups that people be cautious and very careful about how they act. And that is what the group of men who seek to dominate our country want. However, there's always something that me that states, or that reminds me of our history as Africans, and I would call some of us Hebrew people. After 400 years of enduring something, we decided we're not going to endure this anymore. And when you see you get to that stage where history begins to repeat itself and we say, we are not going to do this anymore, there will be an awakening. And this has begun already. And that awakening says, even to those in the police circles, that what you're doing to your people is wrong, because I hear from them and they know that it's wrong. But some of them try to protect their position and their food rather than their conscience. I would the day would arrive when our police officers, most of you, would protect your conscience. You wouldn't starve. Protect your conscience.
Pastor Apostle London here tonight, along with Wayne Cesar. Wayne Cesar has his own show on Saturday nights on um, Bench Shop Radio 107. Is it 107.1?
Yes, Dr. Hines,
107.
107.1. Yes.
And you're on at 6 o'clock on
At
Saturday.
7. At
At
7
7.
every Saturday. Yes.
And your show is called
Over to you.
Over to You. Um, I know you want to say something about the stance of the opposition um, as we weather with what is more than a storm in Guyana. Um, to be fair, the PNC and the AFC were very quick in putting out statements condemning what happened to Melly Mel. But you wanted to say something about the stance of the opposition in this whole scenario, not just in the Melly Mel thing, but generally. Over to you.
Yes. Dr. Hines, I believe, right, the stance of the opposition when it comes to protest, it's not correct. I think the posture needs to change. Even if you don't 100% outright support protests, you have to give your people, the constituency, because we have to remember these MPs, the leader of the opposition, all these people get paid every month. Okay? The people on the ground is the one who is facing the brunt of what the PPP is doing right now. Okay, when it comes to cost of living, amongst other things. All right. So if the people decide that they want to formulate a protest action, which is their right, and I would encourage people to do so if they are disgruntled at things that or the government is doing, if they have issues with government policies and these type of things. These are the type of issues that trigger protests. And I would encourage people to be peaceful in their protests because you don't want them to destroy property. That's going to be at a cost. You don't want to create additional expenses. We already in issues already from a financial perspective. You don't want to create more of that. But as an opposition, I would say if people want to protest, I would support them. I think that is the thing that creates a lot of fear in Guyanese also. They are fearful of going out there and protesting and fearful of going out there and speaking out. Because if the PPP decides to ill-treat them, there is no opposition to represent them. There is no representation in place for them. So I think they need to come back with that approach, come back a bit different with that approach when it comes to protests. I think the posture need to change. Apostle London, I don't know if you want to add a little to this, but I feel like if you would want to add something to it.
Over to you,
May I?
Apostle
Okay,
London.
thank you. Thank you. My question or my concern would have been not statements, but why has Joshua not been shut down yet? Because this is an 80-plus-year-old female of African descent, or female in general, who policemen, she wasn't eating for but 21 days, they're trying to feed her and so on. And those are all signs when, of course, at that age. Now to know young police officers can go into a home, ransack the house with a female of that age inside, my concern would be, why was there not a more overt response that sends a clear message to these tyrants that you are not as strong as you think you are, and you're not getting away what you think you can? It bothers me when we don't have certain responses. I do applaud, because I saw a plethora of lawyers who would have written to Hicken saying, you need to answer. You need answers within 48 hours. That's excellent. To see this battery of lawyers come together and say, you have to answer or else. That's good. But most of society, most of the African descendants and other people, we're not legally inclined in that way. We want action. And so when you cross certain lines, in my viewpoint, there has to be certain degrees of responses that are taken. There has to be. Because if you don't respond, then people begin to walk on you over and over and over and over again. There has to be. As I speak to you now, I'm being informed that there is, even in Miller's Ward here, yet again, another effort by Central Housing Planning to go and build people's houses. Yet again. Right now, as I talk to you, what's going to be the response? People need to see the presence of their leaders taking action that says to all and sundry, we are prepared to live and die to protect the integrity of our people. That's important, because the PPP did it.
The PPP did it. I hear you guys. You know, after the 1973 election, but even before then, you know, Mr. Burnham used to tell his supporters, watch with me one more night. He was out there with them, rallying them, the rallying cry. After the 1973 election, Dr. Jagan declared civil disobedience. He pulled his parliamentarians out of parliament, signaling to his supporters here is something, here's a fighting strategy. Walter Rodney came on the scene. He said, people's power, no dictator. He said, this government must go by any means necessary. Fighting thing, giving his supporters something to hold on to.
Yeah.
Desmond Hoyt came in. He said,
Slow
slow
fire,
fire.
more fire.
And when they decide that slow fire ain't enough, he said, well, more fire. And I am making this country ungovernable. In the history of protest, when you are protesting, you give your people something to rally them. And I've been saying, and I am putting myself in because I am part of the formal opposition, because I belong to an opposition party. We have not put anything before our people as an opposition. When Jack Dio, for that 5 years he was out, he said, when Granger come, chase them out. When the police come, chase them out. I am not saying I agree with all those people. Well, I have to agree with
Right.
Rodney because I was with he. So I have to agree with he. I'm not necessarily saying agree with all. What I'm saying, when you're in opposition, people are not going to come out on the street just like that and say, let me go and think. They look for leadership, and they look for signal from their leadership, and you give them something to hold up, something that says to them, this my leader intend to fight. Mm-hmm. And I've said to Brother Aubrey, I don't get to talk to Nigel as often, but I talk to Brother Aubrey very often. And I've said to Aubrey in private, and I've said it in public. This era needs a robust joint opposition. I am not saying that we political parties, we must come out and declare to the public what our strategy is, what our tactics are. That certain things must be done behind the scene. Oh, Gangang, when they were buying the village, the old lady that a Gangang, when they're planning how they go thing and so on, she said, picnic, bush gatties. So we have to be conscious that bush gatties and certain plans you don't discuss in public. But just as Jack Dio could have said in public, chase them out. Chase the police out. Just as old Jagan could have said in public, civil disobedience, and pull his parliamentarians from parliament. Just as old Rodney could have said, this government must go by any means. All those are legitimate utterances. What makes them illegitimate today? So it's a self-criticism. And I do agree with you all that our formal opposition got wheel and come again. I am not saying that, go there and tell people go lick down and broke up and so on, because they're anticipating that. They have the plans in place for that. But Teacher George teach you in boxing. Where Guinea border Allah, not the yale. And if Teacher George could know that, what wrong with all them this who've been a big university? I agree with you all. We opposition got wheel and come again. Got wheel and come. And that includes myself. Because like I said, I am part of the opposition. But I am at one with you all. All of us, you, Apostle, you win, Cesar. You understand you're a big, you deal with money. You're a accountant. You handle money. I know Apostle is a teacher. Yes. I am a teacher. We are, like all of the people in the audience, product of education. Yeah. Education. Had it not been for education, I would just want a day to day. Education. I usually say to Black people when I talk to them, education is how you birth right. because they block you all from everything else. They block you all from entrepreneurship. They block you all from this. They block you all from that. And the one thing that we fight and we hold on to is education. I go back in my village now, and they get people I went to school with. Some of them had to leave school before fourth standard because parents there, they got to go in the back dam and walk and so on. But in those days, you could have left school at third standard and fourth standard. You're bright like a bulb. You're bright like a bulb. You not do well at common entrance, you do CP. And you pass your CP and you come in at high school at fourth farm. And you do as well as those of us who was there from Farm 1. Nobody know that, well, you didn't do well in community. I'm saying it was a colonial education system. But it was a system that we made to work for us. Mr. Burnham came in and he did something miraculous. People like Walter Rodney could not have gotten to go to Queen's College had it not been for the laws passed by the 1953 government when Burnham was education minister, making it possible for poor people, children, to go to QC and bishops and so on. Burnham later would put in place free education from nursery to university, that people like myself didn't have to pay 1 damn cent to go to UG. If we had to pay to go to UG, some of us might have made it. Some of us, my mother was overseas, she might have scrambled up a little bit of money, but it would have been a stretch. For a number of people, we could not have gotten to UG without free education put in place by Burnham. And it hurts. I'm coming with my question. That now you see this education system, 50% of our people are dropping out. I am hearing when you go into Farm 1, where they call it grade now, but when those who start out, let's say in Farm 1, if you get 30 students in a class, start out at Farm 1, by the time you get to CSEC and whatever exam they sit there, when you get to that point, less than 20% of those who start out in Farm 1 are sitting the exam. So when we are seeing 31% of our young people, our children are failing maths, are passing maths, which 69% failing.
Failing, yes.
69 passing English, which means 31 failing. Those figures are nice, because if you add the dropout into those figures, they are worse. And we have an education ministry that is more concerned about the children who are cramming and passing 30-something subject, 20-something subject, than helping those who need to stay in school in the first place. And those who manage to stay, to help them and equip them to pass. Rather than paying attention to that, you're paying attention to, quote unquote, the high flyers. In any case, I am reliably informed that the minister and the ministers, they picnic, don't go to them public schools. When Cesar, talk to me about what's happening in education, because I'll break down and cry here at what I am seeing in education in my country.
Well, Dr. Hines, like you said, I know it to be a 48% dropout rate, but now I guess it went up even higher, and I am not surprised that it has gone up higher. I always felt that we had a problem when it comes to matriculation from the high school level over to university. But it doesn't surprise me because I'll use myself as an example. Whatever I do, and I've learned better now to be an independent thinker now, so I think a bit differently now. But before, whatever I did, it had to be a means to an end. So if you're asking me to go to high school, I'm looking at once I graduate high school, I must be able to go to university. That means you literally have to dingle a carrot in front of me and I'll work. Okay. Now, when you look at high school students or secondary school students in Guyana, whatever you want to call it, when you look at these students, what incentive is government giving them, right? To work hard to make sure that they get these CXCs and move on to university. What's the end to the means? Okay, where is that means going to lead them? All right. I feel like if that is one of the things that is causing the major dropouts, because university is not cheap in Guyana. Okay, and parents is already struggling with cost of living, right? So to be dealing with cost of living and then have to pay for a child to go to college, that's a lot. And in some cases, multiple children. So that's a lot. So I feel like if that is part of the matriculation issue when it comes to high school, when you look at university, it's obvious. It is not free. So you're going to have a matriculation issue there also, where you're not going to have a whole lot of people graduating from university because many of them cannot afford it. Now, also, when you look at the classroom, now, Apostle London could better address this than I can by leaps and bounds because he's a teacher by nature, okay? We're talking about our teachers. In order to up, the matriculation levels, you need to have good teachers in place. They need to be compensated properly, so that they will invest their time and be upbeat about teaching their children and making sure that everybody is passing their courses and what's not. But what's ironic about this PPP government, this transactional PPP government, is that they're complaining there's no fiscal space within the budget to accommodate teachers and giving them a raise and compensating them correctly and these type of things. But yes, there's fiscal space within the budget that will not affect anything in the country from an economic perspective. There is fiscal space to go out and take multiple loans to do infrastructure, amongst other things. So what we're experiencing, the struggles that we're experiencing in our education system is due to government not investing in our young people. And this is essentially, Dr. Hines and Apostle, going to equal to a very rough future for Guyana when it comes to having educated professionals. That's why they're always saying, yes, we have these positions open, but we don't have skilled Guyanese. Whose fault it is? Government fault, in my opinion, for failing our people continuously. You know how many careers, Dr. Hines, if we can go back to 1992, 91, when the PPP take power to now, you know how many careers the PPPC government would have destroyed? Many, thousands. Over to you guys.
Professor London, and because you've earned it. Professor London, I put 3 daughters through university. They came in this house that I'm in now, and they see books. I didn't have to tell them anything. They walk, book. They go in the kitchen, book. Right? So they do what they had to do by silent example. When I was where they were, we didn't have books in my house. The house is too small for all we, much more for all we, and books, right? But yet, the outcome from them and my outcome were the same. Which means there was something back then with me growing up in a house without books, just the books that we ever use in school or university or whatever. Other than that, you won't get space. So other thing, you get the Bible and so on. and thing, but no big book and all this kind of story. What is it that worked then for poor people in the education system that is not working now for poor people? Talk to me, Professor.
Excellent question, Dr. Hines. What worked then and what is not working now has a lot to do with the quality of leadership we had in our country and the value that education placed in the minds of the leaders, not the people, because the desire and the influence to lead a nation in reference to education comes from the leadership of that nation. And the quality of education ministers we had, you mentioned Forbes Burnham, for example, a visionary who understood the potency of being informed and the power of educating people. More so, he knew there are many who had a desire to matriculate, enter university, but didn't have the means to do it. So he created a platform that people could thrive on, even though you didn't have much. That is severely lacking in our society today because people don't have a great value for education in reference to many leaders. Look at how education is being treated. Look at how people want to dance around and say they're building new schools, for example, just to cheer and say, hey, listen, we did better than Granger or whoever else it is. We commissioned 16 or 10 new schools. But what is the quality, even of the structure itself? We're not going to the teachers yet. What is the quality of the structure in itself? What Air Finale talk about global warming because he parted me a month and he said, listen, we're being affected by global warming and the Caribbean is under threat and all that. Yet, under his watch, or Jagdi of Kulbar Ali, you're building schools that are furnaces. Education is failing our children at every single level. But most importantly, Dr. Hines, I would say this to all. When I was 20 some years old, I would never forget, I was made chief examiner for National Grade 9 examination and the assistant chief for the Grade 6 examination. It was unheard of at that time. I was working in secondary school reform project. But a lady saw me, she felt that I should have functioned in this capacity. She wanted young blood. And I want to share this experience with you all. As the chief examiner, when we were grading exams for all of Guyana, I had to, of course, be at various tables and see what's happening. My heart sank. And I made a vow in the other meeting we had and the analysis. I said to the people, how could it be fair for a child at Queen's College to be asked about electricity and how the light bulb would function, and a child way in Parmakatoy or way in Ramadan or way in some part of the jungle who's never seen a light bulb?
Mm-hmm.
How could it be fair for us to give that child 0 and say the QC child is more intelligent? No, you're not more intelligent, you're just more informed. Because if I take the QC child and put him in the bush and say catch an ackery or a lava, you can't catch them. So the nature of our society and the geographical space in which we find ourselves cause our children to fail because, again, of lack of foresight by leadership, not the children. Leadership is the problem. Our children in this country are not taught based on their environment. They taught based on what somebody thinks they need to know, and then people get funding and all kind of money shared around and say, okay, then yes, we throw this in the system, you have a new curriculum and all kinds of nonsense. But you're not catering to the reality in which we live in Guyana. You can't ask a child about a car engine when they have never seen a car in the bush somewhere. So our reality is very important. But I would like to close by saying that the quality of leaders we have in education is what matters. And that's where we're failing. A child who was poor back in my day, way back in the day, didn't have a problem with being educated because the system was in place to help that child regardless of their economic state. Today, a child who doesn't have it can't go to private school. And the best is being done in a private school. A child who doesn't have it can't go to lessons for $8 and $10 and $15,000 a month per subject. So when you get 20-something subjects and you said you're a scholar, no, you're not a scholar, you're just fortunate. And this is a very passionate area of mine. So please don't get me started here.
I know. I know, Apostle London. I hear you all, brothers, because this education thing is just sending me crazy. I remember being a political activist in my early 20s, late teens, and at some point some of us decided we were going to go to university. and we, was free. We decided we are going to test the government, and we applied, and Mr. Burnham, according to us, allowed us to get into university. And we got there, and we were political activists. So we came up with this brilliant idea, Dr. Westmus and Dr. Wazir Mohammed and so on and so forth, that university is not for we are political activists, right? And the matter went to the executive of the WP, and of course, they shut it down right away. But as I was walking home that night with a UC choir, he was never a stern person. But in his quiet way, he said, I don't know what is it you all are talking about, but I'm talking to you. You are not leaving UG. That's it. End of story. Reinforcing the point you all are making at the level of the community, at the level of those who were governing. Education was important. A couple of years later, I was leaving Guyana. My mother wanted me to come to America. Brother UC accompanied me to the airport. And again, in that quiet but firm way, do not come back to this country without a degree. Brothers, me and go back to Guyana till me get 2 degrees. When me did the bachelor's, me say, well, brother UC said, don't come back. I wait and do my master's before I go back. The point I'm making is that I understand the emotions that come with us with this education thing. Because Professor Nettleford said that's all we have. And I think that without being conspiratorial, there is a systemic plan to miseducate and undereducate Black people and poor people in Guyana.
Correct.
Anyhow, I know, Pastor, you're a busy man, so you gotta go. You get a night shift. This is your evening shift. You come from your day shift. This is your evening shift. And then you go into your night shift. And I know Wayne does be on that night shift too. You know what I mean? So I have to let you all go. Keep you all here till 4 day morning, right? But we got to go because I cut in on Sherrod time. I don't want cutting on Mark Benchop time. Sherrod would be very nice to me. Mark Benchop would be, he would. Closing thoughts, my brother. Closing thoughts. When your closing thoughts?
Yeah, Dr. Hines, I would like to close off with the importance of education. When we look at education now, we don't look at education on just a national level. It is now from a geo level now, right? And when we look at it from a geo level, and Apostle Anna would know this very well, our Guyanese young people, they need to be up to par, with national standards. In that, I would like to see like a CPA exam. I would like to see these type of things be administered in Guyana. I would like to see young Guyanese getting that opportunity to evolve, right? There's a lot of investors and investments coming in to the country. And, that will open up opportunities to young Guyanese. And I want to see our people, Guyanese across the board, being trained and being ready to undertake those duties and accept those positions, instead of you seeing government going out to other countries to bring in folks. And when you're bringing in folks, it's not, you're just bringing in one ethnic group. And that to me is extremely concerning, with the nurses, with the position with the nurses especially, with these 500 Bengali nurses that, supposedly they're probably already in Guyana with their families. That was concerning to me. And I feel like if our people, need to be given that opportunity, and given those opportunities to new investment coming into the country. Because when you look at it from a holistic perspective, a lot of these companies are coming into Guyana. They're bringing their own people a lot of times. They're paying them in US currency. And you have Guyanese that are just sitting there with nothing to do. I don't feel like if that is fair. I feel that there's a missing negotiations, because if I was at a table negotiating with investors coming into Guyana to invest, I would require them to hire a certain percentage of people from my country. When you look at it across the board, you're taking something from me. Okay, you're getting something from me. We're doing business together. It is only right that my people get an equal share. Even if when we look at the oil deal, it's very lopsided. Yes, I agree with that. But had I been at that negotiating table, I would have made sure that a very high percentage of Guyanese, were hired. And that's where we miss it with oil. We didn't send out people before the oil extraction started to be trained as experts. So once the extraction started, Guyanese would have been able to be hired in the high-end position in oil and gas. Because we were untrained, we had to take the substandard position. But last thing I would like to say, the opposition needs to change their posture. We need to start showing that we have a spine as an opposition. We need to start standing up against the PPPC. You cannot just allow Barry Jagdi and these guys to come and spew what they're spewing at their press conference, and that is what the Guyanese people are hearing. No, we have to have rebuttals in place. The opposition press conferences, they need to be a little more lively. To me, they're a bit lukewarm. Let's get these programs on a good station, on either Politics 101. Let's inform everybody. Let's spread the news. Sometimes I look at the opposition press conference, I see 50 people. Come on, man, we got to do better than that. Okay, from a communication perspective, they need to pick up on these type of things. Thank you, Dr. Hines, for having me. I think I had a pretty good debut on your program. Thank you so much, and thanks to the listening audience. And Apostle London, it was a pleasure sharing this platform with you, sir. Always a pleasure.
Same here.
Thank you very much, Wayne. Apostle London, your closing thoughts?
Thank you, Dr. Hines, and thank you, Wayne. I am certainly grateful that I had the moment to be here. Also to the viewers who always make these programs and these broadcasts what they are, which is a ray of hope. I'm so grateful to Guyanese, wherever you are in the world, even to those of you at home. I will always encourage you and implore you to have strength and to have understanding and wisdom. We are at a very critical juncture in our history. We have not been led by people of this nature ever. We've never seen a nation called Guyana being treated in this manner by a clan of what I consider to be criminals. It therefore becomes necessary for us as a people to unite beyond understanding of many, and to understand the value of knowing who we are as a people, and to also value the fact that I would say in Dr. Hines and many others would normally say to you, loving myself doesn't mean I have to hate you. Loving Africans doesn't mean I hate East Indians. I love who I was created to be, and I understand that there's a war against who I was created to be. And as a result of that, I would speak to it. If there is injustice being meted out against East Indians, I will speak to that. If injustice being meted out against Amerindians, as I did with the case with Lam's accusation, I spoke to that. I stood in the sun and the rain, among other people, because we understand the value of humanity. But at the same time, the greatest degree of hatred and injustice is being meted out at this time against the African descendants. We must therefore pay careful attention to that. With that said, I thank you. And I do look forward to Guyanese arising with strength to overcome this so-called wannabe Goliath. It shall happen. Thanks again, Dr. Hines.
My brothers,
And
thank you
Mr. Cesar.
all very much for coming through tonight and making this program what it turned out to be. And to you, our audience, what can I say? Always love. Unconditional love, but not uncritical, but unconditional love. I see you all again tomorrow night for another edition of Politics 101. go on.